Today on our 2011 Buick LaCrosse, we're going to be installing the Curt T-connector vehicle wiring harness with a 4-pole flat trailer connector, part number 56098. With our trunk open, we're going to go ahead and remove the coverings in here, the part that covers up the spare tire. Next, we're going to need to remove this rear threshold or scuff panel piece. Now, to remove the scuff panel, you can either use a large flathead screwdriver or a trim panel removal tool that looks something like this. Go ahead and set that aside for now. Next, we're going to need to come here to the inner trunk lining. There's some push fasteners that secure this lining in place. So we have one here and one here. Go ahead and release those. Now with our two fasteners removed, go ahead and peel the trunk lining back to expose the 4 plastic wing nuts that secure the taillight assembly in place. There's one here, here, and the 4th one's right up here at the edge. Go ahead and undo each of the 4. Next, we'll need to slide the taillight assembly out of the body. We'll then come here on the back side. We'll need to unplug the factory wiring harness at this connection point right here. To do that, we'll push in on the locking tab and gently pull apart. We'll go ahead and repeat the same process over on the passenger side for removing the taillight assembly. Here's what our wiring harness looks like. Now, this half here is what will tie in with the driver's side factory wiring harness. Now you'll notice here behind the bumper there's not very much room to get anything down behind it on this particular vehicle. We're going to go ahead and mount the converter box and actually the 4-flat wiring in the trunk area near the spare tire when the installation is complete instead of hooking it to the hitch. Now to do that, we're going to have to do a couple things a little different. We'll need to pull this grommet out here. This is the factory grommet, so right here's just reach in. We'll then need to take a pair of snips and cut this grommet so that the wires will slide in place. We'll go ahead and take our snips. Cut a section of the grommet like that. We're then going to go ahead and take these 2 connectors, feed them through like that. We'll then go ahead and connect the 1/2 to the factory wiring harness, making sure it clicks into position. Take our wires and put them through the cut in the grommet. We'll then reinstall the grommet in the body of the vehicle. Next, we're going to take the white wire with the ring terminal on it. This is our ground wire. We're going to connect it to the factory ground right there. Go ahead and remove the nut and slide our ground wire in place. Next, we're going to take the long section of black wire that comes with the kit. We're going to use the supplied butt connector and connect it to the black wire coming off the converter box. Then go ahead and strip a little wire back here on the long black wire. And we'll connect it to the other half of our butt connector. We can then go ahead and use some electrical tape to tape up our connection to help protect it. Next, we're going to go ahead and take a little bit of rubbing alcohol on our paper towel. We're going to clean the back side of our converter box. We'll then be putting the two-sided tape on the back side of the box. We'll go ahead and peel the backing off the two-sided tape. We'll attach it to the box. You can then go ahead and clean the area where we're going to put it to the interior. Then peel the backing off of the other side of the two-sided tape. And press it firmly to the interior. Next, we'll go ahead and route our green wire over to the passenger side and repeat the same process for connecting it in with the factory wiring harness. Next, we can go ahead and take our factory wiring harness, plug it into the back side of the taillight assembly. We can then put our taillight assembly back into position. Once the taillight assembly is in place, go ahead and reinstall the 4 plastic wing nuts. We'll then go ahead and repeat the same process over on the other side. Next, we're going to need to choose a grommet to run our black power wire through so that we can route it up to the battery. Now this grommet right here works pretty good. Simply just pull it out. We're going to go ahead and poke a hole in it and pull our wire through. Then go ahead and reach down underneath the bumper cover and pull the black wire out underneath the vehicle. And then put our grommet back in place. Next, we'll go ahead and reinstall our interior panels that we removed earlier. Next, we're going to need to route our black wire up to the positive side of the battery. Now when routing your wire, make sure you stay away from any areas that have moving parts, may become hot, or have sharp edges, as all of these could easily damage the wire. Next, let's go ahead and we'll trace out the wire that we ran to the front of the vehicle. Comes out from underneath the bumper cover, goes up on the top side of the heat shield. This is an area where we use some of the wire loom to help protect the wire. This is part number 7509-10. Then comes out in front, it's routed up and over, and then it ties in. We use several zip ties along the way. Here's another area that we used a small section of wire loom because it did have a sharp edge right there. We use some zip ties to help secure it to the other lines that run to the front of the vehicle. And then we routed it up along the firewall where we pulled it up onto the left-hand side of the engine compartment. Now while we're down here, we're going to go ahead and trim off any excess zip tie to help clean up our install look. Now we've got our wire pulled up into the engine compartment. One thing I forgot to mention earlier is We did use an old section of airline tubing to help us route the wire. While it's not 100% necessary, it will make routing the wire a little bit easier, especially pulling it up here into the engine compartment. Go ahead and route it up. We're going to put a zip tie to secure it off up here. Next, we're going to need to gain access to the positive side of the battery. To do that, we'll remove the battery cover. Set that aside for now. Right underneath here is the positive side. Next, we're going to need to attach our inline fuse holder to the black wire. We're going to take one end, the fuse holder, we're going to attach the supplied ring terminal, the other half will attach a supplied butt connector. We can then go ahead and trim our black wire to length and strip back a little. We'll then attach the other half of the butt connector to the black wire. Next, we'll go ahead and tape up our connection here to help protect it. Next, we're going to need to connect the ring terminal to the positive side of the battery. Now, this nut right here does not come all the way off, so we're going to cut out the center section of this ring terminal so that it can slide over the stud underneath the nut. So it'll look something like that. So now we'll go ahead and loosen up the positive side. About like that. Now, it's also a good idea to make sure that the fuse is not in the holder when you're connecting to the battery. Once we have our connection made, we can go ahead and install our fuse that comes with the kit. Put the cover down and reinstall any battery covers that we may have removed. Now that we have all our connections made, we can go ahead and reinstall the cover for the spare tire. Next, we'll go ahead and pull our 4-flat wiring out. We're going to store it down here next to the spare tire. We'll go ahead and install the dust cover. So we'll slide the cover over the 4-flat wire and then close it down on top of it. When we're not using it, we can simply set the 4-flat wiring down here again next to the spare tire and put the cover back down. When we are ready to use our wiring, simply raise the cover, pull our wiring out, and drape it over the rear trunk threshold area. We want to make sure we stay away from the center area where the latch is, as that could damage the wire. We'll then close the trunk down on it, and the wire will be pushed in at the weather strip. Now you're ready to use your 4-flat wiring. Next, let's go ahead and test it to make sure that all the functions are working properly. Next, we're going to go ahead and take our test light. We'll attach the ground of the test light to the white wire, which is the open prong on the 4-flat. We'll then go ahead and turn on the running lights. With the running lights on, we'll touch the brown wire. For the left turn, we'll touch the yellow wire. For the right turn, we'll touch the green wire. And for the brakes, we'll touch both the yellow and the green wire. As you can see here, all of our functions are working just fine. And with that, that'll do it for the installation of the Curt T-connector vehicle wiring harness with a 4-pole flat trailer connector, part number 56098 on our 2011 Buick LaCrosse.